The U.S. men's national team doesn't know who its striker is, and that's Gregg Berhalter's fault. Find out why on Pints Punditry here at Total FIFA Career Mode. Welcome to Pints Punditry here at Total FIFA Career Mode. First of all, happy 4th of July, and what better topic to talk about on the 4th of July than the U.S. men's national team. So that's where we're going to get started on this first episode of Pints Punditry. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to this channel. Leave some comments down below on anything I say in this episode. I want your feedback. Tell me how wrong I am. Tell me if I got something right by chance, but I want to hear your feedback. You can also get into the discussion on Twitter at TotalFIFACM and follow some extra content on Instagram at Total FIFA Career Mode. I've got my beer with me, ready to celebrate the 4th, talk about the men's national team. Cheers, have a drink, let's get going. The U.S. men's national team is about to play in the World Cup. They don't know who their striker is. And it's tough to blame the coach on a national team for not having a good striker, and that's not what I'm doing. It's not his fault they don't have a dominant top of the roster type goal scorer. But it is his fault that we don't know who the best option is, or if we have a better option than even playing one, which I think we do. And that's what we're going to talk about today. For the record, I'm not an anti-Berhalter guy. I'm not a big pro-Berhalter guy either. He's kind of meh, right? He's whatever for me. He gets the job done. He got the job done because we qualified. But could another coach have done that? Yeah, without a doubt. Would we be in better hands with somebody else? Maybe, but also maybe not. So he's all right, and we got where we needed to be so far. So okay, fine. But I think there's some issues with him, particularly when it comes to his lack of flexibility with the roster and his need to pigeonhole the players we have into the system he has, which I think works significantly better at the club level than it does at the international level. Let's call it like it is. The U.S. men's national team barely qualified for the World Cup. All right, now, when you watch through it, it never really felt like it was in doubt. But at the end of the day, they came in third out of 3 qualifying spots, and they got by on goal differential. Yeah, now going into the last game, they had to lose by 6 or something. So it was sort of we knew we were going to get there, and we could see that it was going to happen. But it wasn't exactly this resounding, oh, we are ready to take on the world type performance over 14 games. Now, should it have been better? I think there was a little more in there. Canada played better than expected. Mexico did not play as well as expected, and yet still came in second. That's my personal opinion. But third seems about right, so I can't necessarily blame Berhalter for that. And hey, at the end of the day, we qualified. I don't really care about anything but that. We're going to be in the World Cup. That's all that really matters. My issue is that the questions we had going into the World Cup, who's going to be the number 1 goalkeeper, who's going to be the striker, and play at that number 9 position, those are still the questions we have. Those are the 2 biggest questions right now going into Qatar. And that's a problem. How did we play 14 qualifying games, a couple more friendlies, some Nations League games, and we still don't know the answer to these questions? That's on Gregg Berhalter. As the coach, that is on him to figure out those answers. Maybe he knows them, but if he does, 1, he's not very forthcoming with them, which is his prerogative. But 2, I don't like the answers, and I don't like what he's come up with. So we have a problem going in. The first one's pretty simple, the goalkeeper. Who is going to be the starting goalkeeper in the first game of the group stage? I don't know, and frankly, right now, I don't care. Zach Steffen, Matt Turner, Ethan Horvath, Sean Johnson, those are probably the 4 leaders in the clubhouse. Frankly, they're all about the same to me. I know they all do a little bit different stuff, but none of them, in terms of the quality of a player, none of them is really head and shoulders above the rest. So this is pretty clear. Play the guy who is playing the most and the best leading into Qatar. It's that simple. That may end up being Steffen now that he looks like he's going to be going on loan at Middlesbrough. And Turner is now not with the Revolution and is going to be backing up at Arsenal. So, yeah, it may be Steffen. But I don't really care who it is. My only stipulation is whoever it is in Game 1, got to stick with him. He can't be going back and forth, yo-yoing these guys in and out because they gave up a couple goals against Wales or England. Or whoever starts Game 1, barring injury, has to start throughout the World Cup, sink or swim. If they're looking over their shoulder, it's not going to work. That would be my my only request, my only stipulation in terms of grading a coach. Pick a guy and go with him. The big question. I had to take a sip for that one. The big question is, who's our striker? We didn't know coming in. We still don't know now. Throughout qualifying, Ricardo Pepi got the nod more often than not. He was our second leading goal scorer throughout World Cup qualifying. You'd think that would solidify it. You may not have even realized he was, because he only scored 4 goals in 14 matches. I think he played in 13 of them. So it wasn't exactly a dominant performance, but frankly, with this roster we have, might be the best true striker on the roster. But it might also be Jesus Ferreira, who has come on strong in MLS and started to play in the friendlies and in the Nations League games. Now, in the friendlies, we didn't really score a lot, or at all. That then warranted a lot of discussion about a false 9. Then Ferreira goes out against Granada and scores 4 goals. Whoop-de-doo. That told us nothing. In fact, that almost made things worse. Because almost any of those other guys, Pepe, Daryl DK, remember when Matthew Hoppe was a thing? Is Josh Sargent still alive? A lot of guys could have scored a lot of goals against Granada. Haji Wright is now in the discussion. He definitely could have scored a few. Ferreira himself could have had 5 or 6. He missed a few opportunities in that game. So it didn't really tell us anything. But the talk leading up to that had been false 9 this, false 9 that. Well, there's a couple problems with that. First of all, where have you been, right? And that's my big issue with Berhalter is we didn't need to get all the way through qualifying and then play a few friendlies and not score against Uruguay and then get into the Nations League and get to where we are, and now he'll still be figuring this out. We knew who we are and who we are not, right? The United States is not Wales. The United States is not Norway. And I picked those teams because they are similar caliber teams to the United States in that they're not the top tier, but they're in that second or third tier somewhere. But they're the exact opposite of us in every other way in that they don't have a particularly deep roster, but they do have one dominant goal scorer. Wales has Gareth Bale, and Norway has Erling Haaland. We're the exact opposite. We actually have a decent amount of depth in midfield, on the wing, but we don't have a true number 9 up top. So we're the opposite in every way. But we knew that, right? So going into qualifying, we knew it was a very real possibility that, we're going to run Ricardo Pepi out there, and he may not take this by storm, right? And so we're going to have to start looking at new options before we run out of games. Well, that became pretty evident. It's not that Pepe did anything wrong, but he didn't come out and score 2-3 goals a game and really grab hold of that starting spot and never let go. No, he played about like we expected. And somewhere about halfway through, there needed to be an adjustment that said, okay, this is not working. The guys behind him are not exactly instilling a lot of confidence. I mean, Jesus Ferreira didn't even really play in qualifying. He was hurt for a game or two, but he really just didn't play much. So it wasn't like anybody was knocking on the door to knock Pepe off the mantle there. He wasn't exactly wowing anybody. Did it never cross anybody's mind to go, maybe we should try something else, right? So if you want to have that false 9 discussion, that would have been a great time to do it. There are some easy games in CONCACAF qualifying, particularly when you are at home. There were opportunities there to let somebody else play at the top and see how it goes without really risking the points. And the false 9 thing is a bit of a misnomer. It's like everybody watched Ted Lasso and heard Nate the Great come up with his amazing false 9 and thought he was reinventing some amazing thing. The false 9, what a false 9 is the guy who would normally be in the striker position drops down into midfield more and plays more in the build-up as part of the attack. It's revolutionary, but it's not. It's a relatively simple concept. People love to toss it around, and Pep Guardiola sort of brought it back this year by winning the Premier League without a true striker. Well, we don't have Phil Foden, so that's not a good idea. And Lionel Messi did it. We certainly don't have him. So you don't need to call it a false 9 and act like it's some big thing. First of all, we've already got some guys who do that anyway. Brendan Aronson would be a great option to drop down into midfield and play more of that number 10 attacking role. Pulisic did it at Chelsea. It's not his best role. He's better out on the wing, but he can do it. He's got the skill set for it. So it could be done, but it sure would have been nice to have tried it at some point with some of these guys. But more specifically, we don't need to reinvent the wheel here. give me the 5 best attacking players on the pitch and put one of them in the middle. Just make him the striker. This is not that hard. And the reason why it shouldn't be this simple, but it is this simple. The one thing you need a striker to do is put the ball in the net. And you are typically sacrificing other abilities because of their ability to do that. Now, some of the best strikers in the world can do lots of different things. That's why they're the best strikers in the world. But a lot of teams have a guy who's just really good at finishing, really good at putting the ball in the net, and you sacrifice defense and a lot of possession and passing for that skill set. The United States does not have anybody, even all the way up to Christian Pulisic, who is that much better at putting the ball in the net than any of his teammates to warrant such a admission into the roster if they're not one of the 5 best offensive players. Berhalter is married to his 4-3-3. Fine. 2 midfielders, 3 attackers, and Adams in the pivot. There are 6 guys who, in my mind, are better offensive attacking players than Jesus Ferreira or Ricardo Pepe. They are, in no particular order, Christian Pulisic, Tim Weah, Brendan Aronson, Gio Reyna when healthy, Yunus Musah, Weston McKennie. Yunus and McKennie are more midfielders. The other 4 can all play up top and have played up top. They are true forwards. At one point, Berhalter came out and said that he would only play Tim Weah as the striker in absolute necessity or something like that. Why? Well, first of all, I think we're there, personally. But why? Why does this have to be, why does somebody have to get hurt to try this? Where has this been? Why have we not tried this? A guy like Aronson would be perfectly fine in the middle. If he drops down into possession like a false 9, okay, great. If he stays up there and tries to poach a bunch of goals like a true old school striker, fine, that's great too. That's where we have depth, and those guys are just as good at putting the ball in the net as Jesus Ferreira or Ricardo Pepe. There's a good chance those guys develop into wonderful strikers down the road, but they're not there yet. This may be an entirely different conversation in the World Cup in 2026, but right now they are not that much better at the one thing you need a striker to do to justify giving up the other things that they are not as good at. So the answer to me seems simple. Give me the 5 best attacking players. To me, if let's assume Reyna's not healthy, that's Pulisic, Weah, Aronson, Musah, McKennie. Adams, defense. There's your roster. And forget Ferreira, forget Pepe, don't forget them. They're on the roster, but they're on the bench. You bring them in to hope to poach a late goal if you need one, but I would rather try my luck with the 5 best offensive players and stop trying to force a striker onto the roster that then diminishes the overall skill set of that starting lineup. That's my personal opinion. Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm right. Tell me if you've got other ideas. I'd love to hear it. But that's what I want to see from Gregg Berhalter. That's what I would have liked to have seen. I think now it's probably too late, and that's the coach's problem. There was time to do this, and they didn't do enough of it. Make sure you comment below. Subscribe if you haven't already. Follow us on Twitter at TotalFIFACM, on Instagram at TotalFIFACareerMode. Happy 4th of July. Thanks for joining us on Pints and Punditry. We'll be back every week or so with another topic to discuss, have a beer, and talk soccer. Thanks for joining us here on Total FIFA Career Mode.